for me, I'd say like a lot of you know this, but in the middle of this year, like my mum was really unwell. So it didn't matter what the fuck it was, she was first. Like it didn't, like, to the point where I was gonna say I'm not proud of saying this, but nah, fuck it. Like I'd cancel consultation calls because I needed to drive my mum to hospital. Like I'm not gonna take a consultation call not to take my mum. Do you know what I mean? Like it's just, I'm like, I'm sorry, you can wait. Like, so for me, that was, what's that, sorry? So yeah, like literally, I just get upset. But yeah, like that's what I'm saying. Like it is, and like now, although I still love my family's pieces, of course I do. I'm in a phase of my life at the moment where probably for 8 weeks, business that went above family for a period of time. But like where I'm at this given moment, so after this weekend, from kind of Monday through to New Year, it will swap back again. That's why I'm back in London, spend time with family. Do you know what I mean? And I think it's just, what I would personally do is either at the start or at the end of every month, draw this triangle again, because things are going to shift. And I think you fall out of alignment and you start to resent your business and you start to resent your life and you start to resent what it is you're doing on a day-to-day basis if you don't know what the fuck you're doing. And you're just living your life off of a to-do list. And you're just living on this constant like conveyor belt of, I don't even know like what I want right now. Literally. Yeah, health, wealth, and relationships are the three like core pains to people in life as well, you know? That's why a lot of businesses are built around health, wealth, and relationships. So yeah, totally. What I think one thing that is important as well is obviously we've done squiggly lines and stuff, but also defining what your definition of success is in every single area. So you may say, right, training's the most important thing. Your definition of success of training might be, I'm going to weight train 5 times a week and do cardio 3 times. Someone else's definition of success might be, I'm going to weight train 3 times a week and run once. So it's like actually putting like a number by it. So like another definition of success to family, I say this is more so important for people, like as you're becoming a far larger business owner, I don't know, let's say for example, you're kind of working with multiple staff as well and you have to manage those guys. Actually saying like, right, my family time is Sunday at this point and we do X, Y, and Z. Because otherwise it can just be skipped off. Or, you know, I would say like date nights and stuff like that. I mean, you certainly could do that. I quite like, with stuff like that, I like to be quite spontaneous, but that's just me. I think just like actually defining what the number is, I think also is very, very important.
You just have. I think doing something like this, if you are in a relationship with the other person, it's really important rather than just thinking what your view on. It might sound horrible, but their priorities might be different to yours at that particular point.
So making sure that you're in alignment or whatever at each stage.
100%. So true.
Or if you're not, then it's a conversation of, okay, why is that there and mine is here? Okay.
Yeah. That's so true. That is so true.
So when you're mapping that out, how much would you look at it as if, because I know, for example, that like found this bought business, but I know if a business got better, you the two would also get better as well. And the family life would get better if I was making more money. All those things. So how much would that affect?
It does become a big factor. And I think that's why that's where the definition of success comes in. Because if, for example, you were to say to yourself, right, I'm just going to throw a number in the fin here. You may say to yourself, right, in business, in order for my business to to kind of grow, I need to book in 3 calls a week or whatever it is. But what I'm now doing is I've booked in those 3 calls per week and my family want to spend some extra time with me, but I want to book in a 4th call. It's like, well, you've actually just ticked off your definition of success. Therefore, that makes sense. It's almost like a barometer of like, let's say you turn around to me and, you know, this was actually your social life and training was at the top. And someone said to you, do you fancy going IB for 3 days? And you're like, I'm competing in a bodybuilding competition, mate. Then it ain't happening because that's tough. And that, do you know what I mean? So it's kind of like almost like looking up and down the pyramid of like what's actually most valuable to me. So honestly, I think that's where people start to struggle with their mental health, is where they have this internally. What they don't even realize they're doing is like their whole life is just that on repeat. And then the next thing they know, they're like, why am I so tired? And it's like, you're not doing that and you're not doing that. And then you start to feel like shit.
I'd love to add also, a book by Brené Brown goes into your core values. When a lot of people are like, oh, my values are this, this, and this, they'll have like 10, which is actually too much. What you should actually have is 2. And when coming from people that talking about yesterday and today, oh, I wrapped my whole life up in coaching, or that's what it is. Having like personal and work values aren't even a thing either. It's actually those 2 deep values of you do everything, or like how do you live your life. So again, something alongside this, I would really recommend write down everything you think is your value, but then go over and over and over and over and over again and get to fit that in.
Yeah, totally. To be fair, we're actually going to go into that a little bit in one of my talks later, but I completely agree with that, you know. I think getting to know yourself, and something that Matt said earlier about like sitting in silence, it's something that we should all do at some point. I remember actually I got told this by my therapist in January. He was like, when was the last time you just sat and did nothing? And I had to sit there for a while and I was like, it's probably about 13, 14. He was like, yeah, mate, that's a problem. Because I was just like, go. But now I do that. I'd like, for example, just something as simple as like, I wouldn't even wash up without music on or without listening to a podcast or like doing something else at the same time. I had to do two things at the same time. So just actually being present and doing one thing, like, I don't know, mowing the lawn or going for a walk or whatever, but just doing it in silence, I think can help with that processing. Did you have a question?
Yeah, just kind of circling back when you were talking about like changes in priorities. So when like towards the end of my growth and into my first prep, like probably for the first 4 months, business was great. I mean, albeit quite a lot of it was in person and PT. As soon as I got to the end of my prep, my business went, I'll be honest, to the floor. And maybe it's time of year is also aspects that impacted that. But towards the end of my prep, and albeit it's my first one, the more I focused on me, which I needed to get my physique into that position, it did have a detriment on my business. Now, I'm not planning competing until 2026. I want to do another show. I want to carry on. I'm concerned about doing that again, having a negative impact on my business again, especially after like wanting to build it and having all that time and effort putting into it and carrying on. What I don't want to do is then reverse the work I've done, if that makes sense.
Maybe this is a personal concern, but
No, I understand that. And I think it can go one or two ways. I've seen it explode businesses, but also collapse them. So I get it from both sides. I think with something like that, because obviously you do have to put so much energy and so much focus and so much of your time into it, I think what would be important is almost like setting what the standard would be in terms of like your content, in terms of your lead gen, in terms of like the way that you are operating things for your clients. And then what I would do, particularly with your content, because I feel like this will come far more naturally because you're doing something and you're going through something, is focus on documenting instead of creating all the time.